All right, we are ready to begin. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. At this time, if you'll rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance, Councilman Foster is going to have our prayer.
Shall we bow our heads? Kind Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day that you blessed us with. We thank you for the opportunity we have to serve the citizens of the fair city of Keene. As a government body, we pray that the decisions that we make tonight will be in their best interest and also bring you honor and glory. These things we ask in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now the Texas flag. I pledge the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. Y'all may be seated. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. This is a regular council meeting. It is February 6, 2025. I just have a couple of quick comments to make during mayor announcements. We lost another member of our community last week. Many of you may know him, Virgil Medina. He was married to Marianne Medina for 53 years. He had 2 daughters and grandchildren. They were my next door neighbors during the 80s. They've lived in Keene ever since then, as far as I know. Since they moved here, they've been members of our Keene SDA church. Anyways, Virgil will be missed, and I just want us to keep that family in our prayers. All right, I'd just like to introduce our new city attorney, Andy Messer. He is here with us tonight, and that's who's sitting beside me instead of Robert Brown, who's probably having a party right now and celebrating. So thank you, sir, for being here tonight. We appreciate it. Okay, so I don't have any other announcements for tonight's meeting. Council, do you have any other announcements that you would like to make? Anything else? Okay, at this time, I would like to give out a proclamation. So this is something that I started when I first became mayor. I started giving out proclamations for Citizen of the Year. I look for individuals in our community that are making a contribution that I feel should be recognized. Sometimes someone brings it to my attention. Sometimes it's someone that I just know has done a lot for our town, and I just want them to know that they are appreciated for what they did. So my goal in doing this is to inspire other members of the community to get involved on our boards and our local events and do their part to help make a difference. Think what a wonderful place this could be if we all supported each other, respected each other, and always worked together. So at this time, I would like to ask Robert Bradbury if you will meet me at the podium to accept a proclamation in your honor. You can just move out here if you want to, Justin, if you want to. It's okay. All right, so I'm going to read this proclamation. Whereas the Citizen of the Year Award is given in recognition of outstanding community service and volunteerism to make Keene, Texas a better place to work and live. And whereas the Citizen of the Year shows commitment, support, respect, leadership, responsibility, a positive attitude, cooperation, honesty, and self-discipline. And whereas the Citizen of the Year provides a positive image for the Keene community, promotes the general welfare of the community, and is active in many community events and organizations. And whereas the Citizen of the Year gives freely of his time and energy for community betterment and was an instrumental influence in the success of our 2 previous Christmas markets. Now therefore, I, Lisa Parrish, Mayor of the City of Keene, Texas, do hereby proclaim Robert Bradbury as Citizen of the Year in the City of Keene, Texas. And I urge all citizens to congratulate Robert Bradbury for the honor he is receiving today and encourage all citizens to become involved in our community. In recognition whereof, I have fixed my hand and seal this 6th day of February, 2025. Congratulations. Thank you. You want to take a picture of those things?
Yeah.
All right, hold it. Or get one without my glasses on my face. All right, thank you. Thank you, Robert. Congratulations.
Okay, at this time, I'm going to move on to agenda item number 3, public comments. And I believe Wes Schramm would like to speak during public comments.
West Ram 1002 West 4th Street. I've been here for a lot of years. So what I want to speak to tonight, Mayor and Council, is the traffic on 4th Street in front of CTA, Chisholm Trail Academy. And I took a walk this afternoon about 3 o'clock and was almost run over numerous times. And I know there's a traffic speed limit there that runs during that period of time, literally from Old Betsy on up a ways. I know that a lot of people are not aware of it, and the kids do not have sidewalks there that are walking down from the public school. I see that all the time as well. I am concerned for our citizens. We either need to address that speed limit sign or get some sidewalks in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, that's the only card I have for public comments. Is there anybody that did not turn in a yellow card that would like to speak during public comments? Yes, Mr. Johnson, go ahead and step forward. State your name and address.
Ray Johnson, 1009 Christine Street, Cleveland, Texas, 76031. I got some pictures to show here
Okay,
of people that been told that they were going to do this stuff and never did 8 months ago. Then we got one on here that doesn't have anything. It's got something to park on the grass. I said something about several times. I'm going to start with Rob first.
okay.
Yeah, that's what you just did. Don't worry about it. Don't threaten me. Just do what you need to do. You got a problem, see me afterwards. You're right. Don't want to finish it. Just look at them and pass them on, please. No, sir. Well, whatever you want to think, okay? You must be worried about something.
All right. So is this the house that's located on FM 2280?
Yes,
The
ma'am.
picture is of? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. He said he was going to do something when Dan Robert put it all on Facebook about the bees. I was called and asked about that again. I was, and I'm not even on council,
Okay.
but I figure I'll bring it to council and whoever else it matters to.
The reason I suggested that you take a look at before you bring it publicly is that was cleared up today. So if you drive by on your way home tonight, and if you drive by, you'll see that that situation is cleared up. That's why I said I didn't want to publicly humiliate you.
Well, that's good. It's about time. It's about time. But look at the pictures and see what you guys think before that, since he said it's been done.
Let me clarify. What you can see from the road without trespassing has been done.
You think so? I'm glad. I think it's a shame that a councilman been letting this go for 2 years. That's what's sad about it. He lied to the council before, so what does that matter? It finally got done?
Careful there, Mr. Johnson.
I'm just telling you the facts.
Lying is a pretty serious accusation, and
Well,
you're
you
just doing
lie.
it publicly.
Where's it been done at? Just finally, after a year?
No, I'm saying,
months?
where was the lie?
Okay. Where did you tell Dan, what did you put on Facebook? You had bees up there?
I
That's
do.
been when it was cut.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
have
you
bees.
got it yet? I mean, you finally got it, you said?
Yeah. The backyard's not done. I'll grant you that. The backyard's not done.
Okay,
But according to the
that's what
city-
we're talking about. You know, the side of it is crazy. But anyway, like
I
you
thought
just
you were
said, he
talking about-
admitted it to it. I don't want to argue with you, man. It's
I thought
fine,
you were
okay?
talking about the tree that fell down, that I was waiting for Encore to come clear up.
Never mind, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Mr. Johnson, for bringing that to our attention. We'll make sure that it gets addressed by code. If the issue's been taken care of, then it'll be resolved pretty quickly then. So if you just want to leave those pictures with the city manager, Johnny, when they get down to you. Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak during public comments that did not turn in a yellow card? Okay. Would you like to go ahead and speak? Sure. Go ahead and step forward and state your name and address.
I'm Jimmy Alcala, 113 Keene Drive. I'd like to kind of echo a little bit about what Wes said about 4th Street. I travel that every day 2 or 3 times. And yeah, the speed limit, really, it's from 4 to 7. I mean, yeah, from 7 to 4 is 20 miles an hour. But actually, there is not a speed limit sign between College and 2280, you know, when it's not school hours.
Okay.
So, yeah, it's very congested. People drive pretty fast, so.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Seitz, if you'll look into that and see if we need to add a sign, or we really should have like a flashing school sign or something when it's during those school times. That really would be beneficial if we added that, something that really makes it more visible, that we pay attention sometimes to the sign, drive in the same neighborhoods over and over, and you forget, and you don't check your clock, and,
Well, the good news is the road isn't great, so if
Yeah,
you
so-
go too fast, it hurts your car.
so yeah, that's true, if you don't go over 20, if you go over 20. Okay, at this time, I'm going to move on to agenda item number 4, reports. A, city manager's comments. Mr. Seitz, you're up.
All right, good evening, citizens, Keene, people at home. You've heard me say many times, especially when I first started, that didn't have much to say, but that was because I was getting my feet under me. So be prepared, this report's a little bit longer because we are gaining momentum and traction. So we've got a great team, blessed with some amazing employees. So just to update everybody on the Kittle project, the apartment, that is moving forward. And at a rather rapid pace in the sense that discovering we have a lot to do, but it is coming, it is moving quickly. I just got the second, as far as the police department, and again, this is as I promise the public, as I get things figured out and dialed in, I will continue to be transparent and letting people know and posting the process and what's going on. But I just got the second and final kind of bid in for quoting for financing of it. It's looking also very good. And so that will be, if not on the 20th City Council agenda, it will be on the 6th for sure. We got a lot of, again, potential businesses coming in, some businesses that, you know, represent jobs for our community and to support the homes and everything else. So, and the next thing on my list, I actually want to call up a young lady by the name of Orna. She is kind of been helping us with social media. Come on up, Orna. Introduce yourself to council and the community. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Do I stand?
Yeah, go ahead, stand
Right
at the
up there.
podium.
Hi, everybody, as well. My name is Orna, and I have been currently starting to work part-time contract-ish on offering my marketing services to you guys. I recently, if you guys heard of the weekly newsletter, that was my initiative to just, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Right, so I've been doing that and implementing other ways to connect the people together with all of us. I'm a recent graduate from Southwestern Adventist University. I graduated with a communications major in advertising and PR and a minor in psychology. So it's a whole rounded thing. And that's it for me right now. And nice to meet you guys.
Well, I just want to say, like I said to you in the back hallway, you're doing a great job. I
Thank
love
you
it. I
so
think
much.
the newsletter
Yes.
has started off wonderful. I think keeping it up is a good thing, to have it on regularly. I've been sharing it to group pages that I'm on so that everybody can see it, and I'm getting good feedback. Everybody seems to love it, so no negativism so far. Nothing negative so far.
Yay.
So this will, thank you very much. You have any questions for her? No? All right.
No, keep it up. Just keep it up. You're doing great.
So this will be probably a budget amendment item that we'll be looking at. Again, I'd like to, I mean, she's already proven her worth, and if we can get her giving us even more time, I think we can continue to control the narrative and focus on the good that this city has to offer. I thought, just for fun, every month, because I'm not a social media person, I find it has a tendency to steal my joy. So I don't get on it, but she does give me an update every week, kind of on, you know, the statistics behind it, and I just wanted to share some of these with you. I don't ask her to track like, hey, a water line broke. That's more of what I call a reactionary post, but things that are more of more directed. Just current case in point, I'll go back to Keene Christmas Market and tree lighting. With that post, we reached people, 100 views, interactions were 44, and all positive comments, no negative. Christmas parade recap reached 440, 2,000 views, interaction 18, meaning likes and all that kind of stuff, and nothing but positive comments. The new police building, this one was really cool. We reached 4,400 people. Views were 12,499. Interactions 110. And this statistic I think is pretty cool. There was roughly 18 positive comments, and each positive comment was an individual. We had 12 negative comments, but it was made up of 3 people. So I'm very excited that the city sees that this is something that is positive for us. Public Works shout-out post reached 513 views, 966, interactions 27, nothing but positive comments. City, the first newsletter that she put out, reached 537, over 1,000 views, interactions 13, and ironically, we had 1 negative comment, which was kind of funny. Don't really know why, but, and then the second City of Keene newsletter, we went from 537 to 1,500, 3,400 views, interactions 10, negative comments 1, which was just simply more of a suggestion than I would say a negative comment. Simply stated trying to do something a little bit more modern, which is something we do want to do. We do plan to do more videos and those types of things, but again, she's here part-time. So if we can get her full-time, it'll be a lot easier. But positive comments were 10, and those also came from the mayor reposting. So I would encourage people to repost, because that really does benefit. When you look at the end of the day, when you look at all this, total positive comments were 35, negative were 21, but again, the negative was made up of a handful of people versus 35 individuals. So this goes back to what I say, that as a business, we need to control the narrative and focus on the positive that this city has to offer. So a big thank you to Orna and your guys' support in allowing me to continue to do this, and I do believe we need to grow this into a full-time position sooner than later. The boards are looking good. I had conversations and meetings with TxDOT, Emergency Services District, JSUD, and Southwestern Adventist University in the last couple of weeks to try to build that collaboration, open communication, because again, if we align ourselves with our partners here in this community, I believe that we can all make our budgets go much further. So all great conversations coming back. I wanted to say congratulations to you all, because we are about to do a first in Keene, and this may be something that we want to look at doing a policy on, but right now there isn't one, for speed bumps. And so because I'm allowed to, I'm going to be putting a speed bump on Walnut Street where our group home and some of our more vulnerable citizens preside. We'll be redoing the crosswalks and putting a speed bump there to slow traffic down. I'd rather not do that on 4th Street, so that might be bad, but we'll get to the streets here in a minute. Looking at I've been looking a lot at the financial viability to address some of these street issues. Again, we are in a good place. We are blessed. Revenue will continue. I'll give you an example. Santa Fe Street is a hot topic in the city. So I have talked with Derek. We have found some funds. There is some question on whether or not TxDOT has some of that, but again, those are conversations that I'm having to see if we can expand it. But we will be, at least when it gets warmer, this is not a good time to lay down asphalt and all that stuff, but we are going to be looking at addressing at least that first kind of 40 feet, the really bad part of it. We do have a plan in place. We have found the money in this year's budget to fix that. And so come when it gets above 70 degrees consistently, we will be jumping right on that project, and Public Works is very excited to do that for our citizens. Don and I have also been starting to talk about, and of course the mayor and I have actually, it's been a couple weeks, but we had conversations about taking some surplus money and addressing 4th Street because, again, it's the most probably traveled of all of our side streets, and with these communities coming in and the schools and everything else. So I do hear you with your 4th Street, and that is something that we're working on. I just entered month 3, so I'll try to have that done by month 4. But we're also looking at some grants right now, just also to address that very concern. There is a grant right now that we're looking at that I will probably be coming and asking your permission to move forward on it. Our grant teams are looking at it, but basically the entire grant is nothing but sidewalks and city lighting. And so we would like to combine that with, you know, obviously if we're going to try to start redoing those roads on 4th Street, we obviously would like to add sidewalks as well. And if we can do it on the federal dime, that's a huge win. Let's see. Park security update. The cameras and everything. The other company, I think it's still going to happen, but it's just taking too long. So our IT company is in the process of giving me a bid. They have gone and kind of looked at things and tested things. So we don't think it's going to be a major overhaul to get it going. So just wanted y'all to know that I am working on that as well. I will also be, March 6th, I've been having conversations with Enterprise Fleet. I'm very excited about the initial cost analysis coming in. We're going to be fine-tuning that because anything I present to you, I want it to be as accurate as possible. But it looks like, I'll give you a fun little statistic. I thought the average life of our vehicles was 13 and a half years. It's actually 16 years. And when I look at how much money we spend on the budget items as far as maintenance and what they can just save us in maintenance costs and actually take our entire city vehicle fleet from 16 years to 4 to 5 years, actually saves the city money. And this is the way I look at it. Every single time I can find ways to save the city $5. But ultimately, what I'm looking for is those big chunks of money. That's money that I've promised you we need to put into getting our city employee and staff up to where it should be for a city this size and address our streets. So every time I find $5, I get excited because that's $250 I can put towards a future employee of this wonderful city and $250 I can put to address the street issues. So I just asked the city to be patient with me. It's only been 2 months. I'm working as fast and as hard as I can. But I promise you in 12 months, there's going to be a lot of changes and the city's hopefully going to start looking a lot different. And I also want to point out, this isn't me. This is the amazing staff that supports me. We have an amazing team here.
All right, thank you, Mr.
That's
Seitz.
it before I start crying.
All right, council, do you have any questions for Mr. Seitz? All right, thank you, Mr.
I do,
Sykes.
I do. How long will it take to transfer the entire fleet over to get to that 4 years?
He's coming back next week for us to really start he said, well, do you want to present with kind of a rough estimate, or do you want it fine-tuned? I said, no, I want fine-tuned. I don't want to waste people's time. And initially, I thought I was looking at an opportunity to just kind of slowly break into the fleet, but I don't want to quote you numbers yet because, again, I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver. But it really makes more sense just to let's do it all at one time. Typically, they, again, there's other cities that I've been reaching out to just to see what do they think of it and that kind of thing. And they said they're not joking when they say we can save 2/3 of your maintenance budget. You know, and let's be honest, Lieutenant Steele, thank God for him. I mean, he's keeping our police cars going. And this way, what happens is you go from this 16-year, we're hanging on to these cars because, oh my goodness, what if this one breaks down? We need a backup, to your average life of a vehicle between 4 and 5 years. And it really does start to become a revenue, you know, I hate to say revenue stream, but it does. It kind of becomes a revenue stream for the city. And again, I'll educate, and we'll talk about this in public when the expert is here to present. But it sounds like it actually happens kind of quick, you know, and they kind of manage everything. So, yeah.
And on that note of the vehicles, I did notice that we got the new vehicle for the fire department, for the fire
Yes.
chief's vehicle, so it was here today. I happened to just see it at a glance.
It is back and wrapped. Now,
And-
it still needs the lights, right?
It's beautiful. I love
Yeah.
the color on it, yeah.
Yep, and that's one that we will not let them take over.
Yeah.
Chief worked too hard to get that one, so but
Tahoe.
yeah,
The Tahoe, right?
it is really pretty, and
Yeah.
I'm sure Orna and Chief are working on getting some sort of, something out there.
Yeah, he
So,
said he's still putting some stuff on it, yeah.
Yep, yeah.
Anyways, all right, well, congrats, Chief, that you got a new vehicle finally. Okay, any other questions for Mr. Seitz? Okay,
And
moving on.
I do want to add one more thing, and you also notice on the agenda, I finally started doing some of my training, so all of a sudden you saw that there was an agenda there. I guess I'm supposed to be doing that, so I will try to make sure that you guys see what I'm going to be talking about so that the public knows they can come and hear what I have to say, and if they don't like something, they can let me know.
Okay, great. Okay, agenda number 5, we do not have a public hearing tonight, so we're going to move on to agenda item number 6, consent agenda. Council, I do need to remove one item from the consent agenda for just a brief discussion, and that's going to be agenda item number 6A. Does anybody else have anything else under the consent that they would need to remove? Yes, sir?
I don't know if we need to remove it or not, but is there any way to say that we don't have an animal shelter?
Any way to say that we don't have one? Holly, can you speak? Are you talking about item 6B?
Yes.
Yeah, I believe that it's mandated by state law that we have this because we do have a shelter. It's just not a full-time working shelter, but we still are mandated by state law that we have to maintain a committee, an animal shelter advisory committee, and
No,
we've just never done it.
No,
So we're just now catching up to
What I'm
ourselves.
saying is because it's going to cost us so much money to get that shelter up and running, why don't we call it Building C or something like? It was going to be over $100,000, I think, the last time we looked at that. Is that not right?
All right, well, do you want to go ahead and remove that item to discuss it briefly?
I think,
For-
yeah,
And
okay,
since we're
let's-
kind of discussing it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's remove item 6B. All right, so I need a motion at this time to approve items under consent agenda 6C through F, C, D, E, and F.
I'll make a motion to approve items C through F on the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous, motion is carried. Okay, now we're going to discuss item number 6A, consider approval of the minutes of the regular Keene City Council meeting held on January 16, 2025. I had this item removed because at the advice of Robert Brown, he told me that we needed to make an adjustment to the minutes under executive session to record that we discussed records security as a follow-up from the city manager comments under 4A. So that's the reason I had that item removed. So We did have another topic that he had asked to speak in executive that did not get recorded in the minutes. Record security. Got that?
What was the wording he had told you to?
I'm sorry?
What was the wording he had told you?
He told me to put records security, and he just said to say that that conversation originated from the city manager comments of that meeting, which looks like it was taken under 4A. Mr. Seitz made reference that he wanted to talk about us to something in executive, and that's the topic we talked about. So he just said to go ahead and say, report that in there in the minutes.
Okay.
All right, so I need a motion to pass that. I guess we can go ahead and talk about 6B. All right, 6B, Mr. Foster, did you want to go ahead and comment on that? The Animal Advisory Committee? You want to talk to it, Mr. Smith?
I just wanted to ask a question.
Okay.
To Mr. Messer. Is that acceptable to be able to transition from something that we talked about from, I'm referring back to the A, to add something like that afterwards? Okay, I just wanted to,
Yeah, basically what you're doing is
is your microphone on?
you're,
Yeah, just push it.
Yeah, there you go.
basically what you're doing is you're approving minutes with change to make them more accurate.
Okay,
Fine, happens all the time. So,
Okay.
That's good.
just double checking.
Okay, let's go ahead and do a motion on that, and then we'll go back to 6B. So I need a
So
motion.
move.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, so we have a motion to consider approval of the minutes of the regular Keene City Council meeting held on January 16, 2025, with corrections added by the mayor per the former city attorney's advice. By Smith and a second by Foster. All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried. All right, now discussion on item 6B. Consider approval of the recommended individuals to serve on the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee.
I mean, I'm fine with the individuals that are listed there. I just think it's crazy to have an animal shelter that's not being utilized, and it's going to cost us so much money to bring it up to code. Let's just repurpose it for something else.
Well, we are using the animal shelter. It's just under an emergency order from our previous ordinance. It's written that it's just for aggressive animals or animals that are having a safety issue that we need to rescue, and it's just for short term. I believe it's just 3 days, 72 hours. So we're just housing them for short term, and then we're homing them, like rehoming them or putting them down, whatever the case may be. So we are using it. So I don't know if we can just totally close the whole shelter if you decide you don't want to do that part anymore, but
I thought it had to be brought up to code before we could use it.
that was, yeah, several years ago. You and I were in on those talks about how the animal shelter was not up to code, but we did take a few steps to bring it up to code, like about 4 years ago. And that's when we laminated the floor, if you'll remember. They was talking about germs, so we did shellac the floor. We did some painting. I think they changed out, I did some repairs to the air conditioning system and the heat. That was one of the issues that we discussed, because there's like a beam across the top that has a gap.
But I think it
where
has to
the-
be maintained like at a certain temperature year-round.
Yeah,
I mean,
as far
there's-
as I know, I've been told in the past that it is doing that now, and that we're not having an issue with that. Is that correct?
I can look into it. I also know that Chief Kidd is in the process right now of talking with other local cities, kind of doing a combined effort, shared cost type shelter. So I do know that there's chatter of stuff that's being worked on to address it. So, but I can find out for sure. I mean, we can table it and I can get back to you.
I mean, I'll go ahead and approve whatever it is, 6B. I'll make a motion to approve 6B.
Okay.
But I would like to discuss it down the road.
I thought we were under the interest that we were building or talking about building a community shelter that 4 or 5 cities can use. That was the last I'd heard.
We've kind of talked about that in the
Yes.
past. It hasn't, worked out yet, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's still
It's still going.
in the process.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve item 6B. Do I have a second? Do I have a second to approve item 6B, to form this committee? Okay. All right, we have a motion on the floor to consider approval of the recommended individuals to serve on the Animal Shelter Advisory Committee by Foster and a second by Shaw. All in favor of the motion, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 7A, review, discuss, and consider a nomination for the vacancy on the Johnson County Appraisal District Board. Let me get to that part of my packet. Okay, so the background on this, gentleman, is due to the sudden passing of one of the Johnson County Appraisal District Boards of Directors, a vacancy needs to be filled. The city may nominate one person for this position by resolution to be received by the acting chief appraiser no later than March 3. So that's why this is on this agenda at this time. And we do have a couple people from the public that would like to speak. And I did put in here my recommendation for us, and it's somebody that we've heard from before, is Peter Svensson for nomination for this board. So at this time, I'm going to call Craig Hunley up to the podium.
Mayor, Council. First of all, I want to thank y'all because, last year, y'all helped get 5 citizens elected to the CAD Board, Central Appraisal District, and that is the first time in Texas history that has happened. Yes. And we got your friend on. I saw that. Yeah. And, but the last day of the elections, our friend Jim Cockrell, who has spoke to y'all before, 30-year retired administrator, he was leaving out one morning. He helped with funerals on his motorcycle, and he left his house, pulled out on Island Grove Road, and a truck and a trailer hit him, killed him instantly. And we're back. Great guy. It just hit me in the gut when I got the phone call.
Yeah.
But we've got another great gentleman, Mr. Peter Svensson. He's very well known around the community. He's been involved in all the CAD board meetings, does a lot of good work around the whole county. And I would just hope that y'all would consider nominating him and leave it at that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hunley. And we're really, really sorry that Jim Cockrell passed away before he ever got to serve. That really is a travesty. All right, I'm going to call Greg Cooper to the podium.
Mayor, Council, City Staff, thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak. I've come to you before for pretty much the same reason, and I'm here to parrot what Mr. Hunley said. You guys were instrumental before in placing the citizens candidates on the Central Appraisal District Board of Directors, so thank you for that. It's important that you guys reflect on how hard it is to do your job and having to be involved in having a good solid knowledge base on what you're getting into. Mr. Svensson has spent well over a year being involved with the Central Appraisal District. He's gone to numerous taxing entities, political subdivisions, even yours, and brought in inconsistencies and unfair appraisals and problems that has actually led to action by the Central Appraisal District to where now they're in the process of doing a request for proposal to do an independent audit on themselves, which he was a part of, to try to make sure that these appraisals are being done fairly, equally, which is in the best interest of your citizens. He's put the time in, of his own time, energy, and effort. He has a well-rounded knowledge of homestead exemptions and residences and commercial businesses as well. He would be a solid fit for an irreplaceable man, Jim Cockrell, but he definitely is well ahead of the curve of most individuals because he's already put the time in. So thank you for your consideration for Mr. Svensson.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. All right, would anybody like to hear from Peter Svensson? Or anybody would like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
All right.
I'd like to move the council to approve resolution number 2025-466 to nominate Peter Svensson as a member of the Board of Directors of the Central Appraisal District of Johnson County.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion on this motion? I have a motion on the floor to approve resolution number 2025-466 to nominate Peter Svensson as a member to the Board of Directors of the Central Appraisal District of Johnson County by Chapman, and a second by Foster. All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried. Thank you, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
I want to thank these gentlemen for their support of me, but I want you to know I retired in 2016 from the music business. And anything I've ever done in my life, I do it with a passion, and I do it directed as a Christian gentleman. And your support means the world to me. But as I came around before, I've seen so many irregularities of how they've taxed people. I'm embarrassed to say I've had to sue them, but I won because I showed them where they were wrong. And I'm suing them again currently because they are just so out of line. But you have my commitment, my time, my energy, and all that I've learned, I will put forth to help the citizens of Keene, Texas. And I know this gentleman back here, when he spoke to you, he's overtaxed. His house is too valued too high. And I promise you, I'll make sure that everyone in this county, especially in Keene, will get their correct tax so we do not tax people out of their homes. Thank you again.
All right, thank you, Peter. Appreciate it, thank you. All right, agenda item number 7B. If you gentlemen, if you want to go ahead and step out, that's fine. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay, agenda item number 7B, review, discuss, and consider an appointment to the Keene Economic Development Type A Board to fill a vacancy for a term ending March 2027.
Mayor, may I speak?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So I've been looking at the board, the different things that are going on here, and I'd like to talk to the city and fellow council members. There was a complaint filed by a citizen about this. I considered it a lot. So I want to move for a council to appoint Philip Jackson to the Keene Economic Development Type A Board to fill the vacancy. And the reason why I want to do it, he has many, many wonderful ideas. He can catch things. I believe that he'll save this city a lot of money in the future. He's very, very meticulous. I've spent some time with him. So, yeah, that's what I like.
All right. All right, we have a motion to appoint Philip Jackson to the Keene Economic Development Type A Board to fill a vacancy for a term ending March 2027. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any further discussion on this motion? I'm sorry, yes, ma'am? Would you like to discuss something? Okay. Just state your name and address.
Samantha Gillen, 218 West 4th Street, Keene, Texas. As president of the Type A Board, the board did discuss the people who submitted their requests to be put on the Type A Board. And we had Philip Jackson and we have Troy Smith. The board wanted Troy Smith. So I would like you to consider that since it would be more congenial to our Type A Board.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
I do have a question,
Okay.
and I know it's probably not illegal anyway, and it's nothing against Troy or anybody in here. But being a council member, should you be allowed to serve on another board that we have to vote for as a council?
Great question.
I mean, it's not illegal, but it's a little bit questionable. You're on a board that you send stuff to council, and then you're on council that you have to vote for. It seems a little bit one-sided, or could be construed as one-sided. I'm not saying it would be. I'm not saying Troy wouldn't do a great job. But it would just be a little bit questionable about being on a Type A board or Type B board or EDC and recommending something to council, and then come back and then you get to vote on it. Maybe I'm looking at this the wrong way.
Can we get the attorney's advice on that?
I completely agree with that.
Go ahead, I'll let you do a follow-up, and then
Okay. First of all, David Bass was on our Type A board, and he was a councilman. There was no problem with that. If something came up that he voted for on the Type A board and he was on council, he recused himself. There are ways to do it, and you should not just not let someone be on another board that they want to be on, because it's all volunteer,
Oh, I understand.
just because they're on council.
Oh, I agree. I
You know.
just don't, talking about the public, we understand that.
Yeah, the public perception
For
is
public
always,
perception could be totally opposite of that.
it can,
Yes.
it can. But if we do public perception, none of us would be here.
Well, that's true. Well, I was just
Seriously.
I was just asking.
Seriously, to me, that's a moot point.
Well,
Mr. Jackson has also applied for the B board and some of the other boards, and maybe he can get on there. But our Type A board did vote for Mr. Smith. Now, I understand the council doesn't have to do that,
right.
but it is a board we've worked very, very hard with our board. And not that he wouldn't, but he also had made a statement several times he wanted to, for lack of a better word, he wanted to shut the boards down. He didn't think we needed them. He could restructure the money somewhere else. Well, that doesn't make your boards feel very good, or like he's going to work with us, if that's the way he feels.
Right.
And so I'm just saying, I would request that you vote for Mr. Smith.
Yeah, I do know a little bit about that, of shutting the boards down. That was brought up by a couple of city managers ago, and it was just a thought process as a way to reallocate the money that the boards get in order to put it to our roads. And it was decided that we weren't going to do that.
Yeah,
So
you
it was
can't do
just, it was just a discussion item as far as I'm concerned. It was just a thought process, trying to think outside the box. What can we do to try to get as much money as we can to fix our roads, because we have a bad situation with our roads? And that was a thought process, like I said, a city
Okay.
manager before.
Well, then may I ask another question then? If Mr. Phillips is going to apply for every board, can he be on every one of them that he applies for?
He can be on all of the boards, I believe, except for BOA at the same time as P and Z, because they're in conflict with each other. But as far as he got an attorney's evaluation on that, I believe that he can serve on every board except for those two together.
Okay, so someone else who wants to be on a board
Yeah.
can't be there because he can take all of those positions.
Yeah, so, yes, Mr. Jackson, would you like to go ahead and speak? Let's hear from Mr. Jackson, since he's in.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Since my name has come up, I would serve the citizens of Keene on any board or commission that I'm appointed to. That would be my first and foremost thought as far as serving the citizens of Keene and protecting the money that they contribute to the operation of this city. I've been at all the 4A board meetings where my name was discussed. However, my name wasn't discussed, basically, and that is my main contention as to why my name wasn't in the queue for this current appointment. And I am currently requesting an appointment on the B board as well. If council sees fit to see me serve in more than one capacity, that's fine. But I am here to answer any questions if anybody has them.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Jackson?
Mr. Jackson, I just have one question for you. I remember when we were at the forum, and you spoke at the forum, and you had mentioned that you wanted to dissolve the Type A or Type B boards. And so how do you see yourself sitting on this board when you stood in that room with all of those people and mentioned that you wanted to dissolve those boards?
Well, that's not in conflict with my purpose for serving the citizens of Keene to the best of my ability and to the, with regard to the wisest and most efficient use of their funds.
That sounds like a direct conflict of statement, sir, because you want to be on that board, but you've already mentioned that you want to dissolve that board. So I just so the public understands what you had said in the past and what you're trying to achieve now.
That's not a conflict. Whatever serves the citizens of the city of Keene and their monetary issues that they provide will be my
Like
my
I
main
said, those
goal.
were ideas being floated around by multiple people, our city manager included. We were just, it was brainstorming, as far as I understand, that we were just trying to decide if that was a decision that we could do that would better us, just like Mr. Foster brought up, should we shut down the animal shelter? It's just ideas, and you're thinking outside the box, trying to figure out if it's costing us money, why are we still doing it? So there's nothing wrong with him changing his mind or changing, or his decision-making process evolving when new information is presented to him. That's what he's saying. He's going to serve to the best of his ability and serve on the board as long as the board's there.
Well, then I would have a follow-up question. So do you plan to try to terminate the type A or type B board?
I plan to learn as much about both, whatever board I am on, and if it's one or two, and again, serve the citizens to the best of my ability, utilizing the money that they have contributed.
The city attorney can probably tell us that one individual board member can't actually dissolve a board. It's a vote that has to go before the voters at an election. So even if he had the idea to dissolve the board, the council would have to then put it on an agenda, and then we discuss it, and then we would have to put it on an actual ballot, and then the voters would decide whether the board gets dissolved or not. So Mr. Jackson can't really do that on his own.
I understand that. I'm just, the perception of putting somebody on that board that has already mentioned those kinds of things doesn't sound like a very good fit in my mind. So, but he really didn't answer my question, so just for let the record show that there was no yes or no answer.
Excuse me, Mr. Smith, your point's well taken, okay? It is.
Mr. Seitz, would you like to say something?
So I think sometimes it's important that we take a step back and we look at kind of the history of where we were and where we're at. I specifically, when I first started, kind of went to Holly and said, oh, I'm so sorry. Have your hands been up for a while? Oh, here. Can she go first and then I'll?
Yeah, Ms. Schramm, would you like to speak for a minute?
Sorry.
Well, I have a history with this. So many of the years that I served for 10 years on council, I was also on type B, so I know that that can be done. But I actually would like to say that there is also a vacancy in the type B board, which you'll be discussing soon as another agenda item. And we had some really great candidates, and so we're not recommending one of our candidates that was there tonight, because that's not the way our board went, but he is here tonight, and as far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't appoint either one of these guys, because Mr. Jackson is already very well serving us on P&Z. Mr. Smith is on the council, and Mr. Akala, who's here, has just told me that he would be interested in economic development as well as the board that I'm on, which is community development, business and community development. So if you're going to be considering other people and you're going to be putting someone on that board who the board themselves did not even recommend, then maybe you would like to step back, put this off to the next meeting, have Mr. Akala put in his application and put somebody who is anxious to serve, wants to start being a part of the community, has business experience. I went into his resume because I was the chair of our last meeting, and consider him and maybe let this whole thing cool off a little bit anyway. So I would like for you guys to all just consider that and maybe table this even just for one time and meet him, because I think he's a great new person to our community. He's been here, what, 18 months? 2.5 years, longer than I thought. So anyway.
Yes, I've met Mr. Akala.
So
He's
would
already
like to,
got an application with
Yes.
us for the type B board, yes.
yeah. And so now maybe you're planning to override type B also on their recommendation and put somebody else on. All of our candidates were great, and I don't think any of them were serving in another capacity. And one of the problems that we have had through the years is we can't get anyone to serve. So if we have people willing to serve, then let's not double up with somebody who's already doing a good job at what they're doing. I applaud what Mr. Jackson is doing on P&Z. I've served briefly on P&Z in the past. When he was there, he was always well prepared. He was always well researched. He's very meticulous about things like that. So I would just submit to you to at least consider my suggestion.
All right, thank you, Ms. Schramm. I think
And
that was the point that
this
Mr.
is-
Chapman wanted to make,
And-
was that if there's qualified people to serve, we should try to involve as many people from the community as we can to be on our boards. And as a council, we should recuse ourselves from being on the boards. I'm assuming, can the mayor apply to be on any of these boards as well? If I wanted to be on A, B, or P and Z? And be the mayor? Is it different for my position versus a council member?
Okay, you're getting into a different topic. Happy to talk about that.
Okay,
There's
another
a
time?
doctrine called, yeah, it's
Okay.
called dual office holding. We'd have to talk about that. That's really not in front of
Okay.
you right now, but to answer the gentleman's question earlier, what you're talking about is a legal conflict of interest and then something that may have an appearance of a conflict of interest. And so the statutes that set up the EDCs allow a council member to serve on the board. So by statute, the legislature says it's not a legal conflict of interest, but that does not mean, from the public's point of view, it may have an appearance of a conflict. But that's a more practical question than a legal question.
All right, thank you. All right, let me let Mr. Seitz say what he wanted to say.
Mrs. Graham's, I'm glad you went first, because that was kind of where I was going. We have to look at the history. When I first got here, I researched, and just a handful of years ago, let's be honest, less than 5% of the community was deciding the future of the city. When you look at how many people voted and that kind of thing. When you look at Burleson, they set a policy that says you can't do that, but they also have 55,000 people to pull from. And so the history of where we're at right now is because of the size of our city, but the city is continuing to grow. And I do hear, what you're saying, and I'm just putting this out here as a leader. If I've trusted people to do something and then I override them, then it kind of, what's the point of trusting the people on our boards? You know what I'm saying? So my issue here is not to, y'all can decide what you want, but my issue here is that sounds like a policy that you guys may want to look at changing, but I would, if it were me, I would advise carefully of overstepping what it is your boards are wanting, because they may have good reason for what they're wanting, why they're wanting to do what they want to do. So anyway, that's just I think we're here because of history, but if you look at the last 2 years, we've been creeping up into 10 and 12% of the community getting involved. So we may want to look at a policy change as far as, do we want to make that kind of standard procedure like other cities do? And again, Andy, please let me know if I'm, yeah.
And I'm not trying to say Mr. or Troy wouldn't do a great job. I'm just thinking out of it as Joe Blow citizen, not getting all the information or not even researching it to get all the information or even caring to get all the information, just looking at it and go, well, he's on council, he's on here, and he's also on this one and this one. Well, he gets to help make decisions, and then he gets to vote on them. I'm not saying that he wouldn't recant himself from it. I'm just thinking as average, everyday citizen out there walking the street that doesn't pay attention to anything and just hears one thing, and then all of a sudden they've got an opinion.
It's not even the recanting, is you're building a camaraderie with those people on that board, so you're going to influence them whether you recuse yourself or not, because
Well.
you're hanging out with them all the time and talking to them and getting to know them. So it could still be considered by the public as a conflict because, yeah, you're building relations and then you're going to influence them by that, your friendship.
Well, I'm not saying he's gonna influence him one way or the other. He's got his opinion, and which
Yeah,
is,
it's
he
the
should.
appearance, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm just thinking Joe Blow out here playing basketball, and they said, well, Troy's on the council and Troy's on B board. Okay. Well, isn't that a conflict? Not necessarily. Well, it should be. I don't think he would do a bad job. I don't think any of them would do a bad job. I'm not saying that. I'm just thinking open to the public. What kind of are we providing them as a conception?
Okay, Mr. Foster?
Yeah, I'm just wondering what the council feels about tabling this now and seeing if Mr. O'Connell would like to turn in his his application. Yeah, turn in his application and let's open the field up a little more. If other citizens are willing to serve, why not give them the opportunity?
Right now, I do have a motion on the floor in a second, so I will have to call for a motion on this, but if it fails, then that motion could go to a
I
table.
wasn't making a motion. I was just asking the
Mr.
council what they felt.
Mr. Knott, did you want to speak? go ahead and step forward to the podium.
So Paul Knott, so if there's a conflict, change it. Change the ordinance, and eliminate the perception of the conflict. But those reasons were probably, the reason that exists is probably because no one wanted to serve. It was a smaller town, it was the same people over and over. However, that does need to change. And it's gonna change when there's people like Jimmy Alcala who wants to serve, and people you haven't thought of who are out there. The Mendenhalls, the Staffords, the Dean and Sharon Turk, let's get those people involved. But here's my point. The point is this, I think it's very dangerous if you tell the subgroup here who interviews these people, knows what they want to do, just like Mr. Seitz said, I agree with you totally. And then they recommend somebody and you tell them no, well, then that's really going to put a damper on their enthusiasm for even serving because you're not even respecting what their word is. So I think that'd be very dangerous, counsel, for you to do that.
I'd like to add something. I'd actually like to ask Mr. Chapman to rescind his motion and then do a table to allow Mr. Alcala to put in an application.
Mr. Smith, the reason for this is I don't want anybody ever thinking that there could be a reason for your vote one way or the other. Or on the other side, Chuck Easley's vote. You're both on boards. I believe that it's best to not do that, and I voted that way. Okay? So I will not.
All right, at this point, we only have the 2 applications to consider, so we don't have any other applications that are considered for this board. Yes, Mr. Johnson, did you want to step forward? Okay, last comment, then I want to move on so we can call for a vote. We spent enough time on this item.
I don't know this gentleman here, or I like Troy. Troy does a good job on everything. But here we got a man that's been serving this city for a long time, does everything for this city, helps everybody out that he could help. I don't know why they don't want him on there. It don't make sense. This guy's willing to do anything. 2 years living in the city. Troy's been here 3 years, and Troy does what he wants in a good 4 years. But Jackson's been here, look how long, and everybody in this city knows this man does anything for rides, I don't care who it is. We need to think about him, honestly.
All right, thank you, sir.
Can I play devil's advocate one more time? The argument here is you can't have 2 people serving. So I'm going to just play devil's advocate here. If Mr. Jackson's technically on P and Z and he's approving something that was brought to him in type A, we still have that same argument. And so, again, I'm only here to advise and tell you how I see things, but we have that same argument, just a little bit of different situation. So for me, I kind of like the idea of let's try to get different people on all boards and involve the community more. That's just my recommendation.
All right, this time I want to go ahead and call for a vote. We have a motion on the floor to appoint Philip Jackson. Ms. Schramm, Ms. Gillen, you've already spoken twice. I have a motion on the floor to appoint Philip Jackson to the Keene Economic Development Type A Board to fill a vacancy for a term ending March of 2027. This motion was made by Chapman. It was seconded by Shaw. All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed, raise your hand. Okay, so you're voting against.
I'd like to make a motion to table it.
Okay, so first, let me declare that the first motion to approve Philip Jackson of the Type A Board failed by a vote of 1 to 3. And we now have a motion on the floor to table appointing the Keene Economic Development Type A Board vacancy for a term ending March 27 by Foster and a second by Smith. Did I get that right?
No, other way around.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor to table this item. All in favor of tabling this item, raise your hand. 3. Those opposed? 3 to 1, motion is carried. So this item is tabled.
We can always bring it back in.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 7C. review, discuss, and consider 3 appointments to the Keene Economic Development Type A Board for 3 3-year terms ending March 2028. So for this item, the Keene Economic Development Corporation has recommended that the 3 individuals that are currently serving would like to seek reappointment, and those individuals are Cody Thornton, Wes Schramm, and Rolando Calindras Brand. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Okay, do I have a motion on the floor for this item?
I'll make a motion to accept their new appointments.
I'll second that.
Okay, hold on just a second. All right, we have a motion on the floor to appoint Cody Thornton, Wes Schramm, and Rolando Calindras Braun to the Keene Economic Development Type A Board for 3-year terms ending March 2028 by Smith and a second by Foster. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion is carried. Agenda item number 7D, review, discuss, and consider an appointment to the Keene EDC Type B Board to fill 1 vacancy for the term ending March of 2026. So the Keene Economic Type B Board has 1 vacancy to fill. They received applications from the following individuals: Jimmy Acala, Philip Jackson, Cody Locks, and Nellie Youngbird. The EDC Board voted at their January 21st, 2025 regular meeting to recommend the appointment of Nellie Youngbird.
I move the council to appoint Nellie Youngbird to the Keene Economic Development Type B Board to fill a vacancy for a term ending March 2026.
Second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to appoint Nellie Youngbird to the Keene Economic Development Type B Board to fill a vacancy for a term ending March 2026 by Foster and a second by Smith. Any further discussion on this motion? Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, raise your hand. It is unanimous. Motion is carried. Okay, agenda item number 7E, review, discuss, and consider 3 appointments to the Keene EDC Type B Board for 2-year terms ending March 2027. So the Keene Type B Board has 3 appointments that are ending on March 1st, 2025. Those are Charles Easley, Cheryl Schramm, and Ricky Stevens. All 3 members wish to seek reappointment to the EDC B Board for another 2-year term expiring March of 2027. The EDC B Board voted at their January 21st, 2025 regular meeting to recommend the reappointment of these members. Council may reappoint these members or consider new appointees from the applications received. So the applications that were received include the ones that I just mentioned, I believe, from the previous agenda item, and those are Jimmy Alcala, Philip Jackson, and Cody Locks. And we've already reappointed Nellie Youngbird to that board.
I'll say we table this due to the same fact.
Okay?
Give Mr. Easley the chance, since he is not here, for the same reason we tabled the other board because of Mr. Smith. I mean,
Okay.
what's good for one is good for all, in my opinion. I think we ought to
That
table
makes
it and
sense.
give
We
him
need
the
to decide
opportunity
how we want to move
speak.
forward.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor by Shaw and a second by Foster to table the 3 appointments to the Keene EDC Type B Board for 2-year terms. Are we tabling all of them, or are we just going to table Mr. Easley?
That's what I was going to ask. Before we do that, before we vote, can we just rescind the 1 and appoint the other 2?
I'll take my second back.
No, you can't do that.
Sorry, I want to make sure the
No.
other 2 don't feel like they're being
Well,
ostracized as well.
I didn't know if we could do that, if we could approve 2 of
Yeah.
them
You can.
and leave Mr. Easley just hanging until
Yeah.
he is here
Okay.
to.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
All right, if you want to withdraw your table,
I'll withdraw my table of all of
or
them.
all 3 of them, and then if you want to make the table for just the 1.
Make the table for Mr. Easley until he can be here to defend
You
himself.
want to modify your second to, for that just 1 individual?
Why don't we just go ahead and approve Cheryl Schramm and Ricky Stevens.
Yeah, we can
And
do
leave
that
the
after
third-
this.
the third
We're going
one
to table
blank.
Chuck Easley, and then I'm going to call for another motion to, if you want to reappoint the other two
Well, I
members.
took my second back, so we don't have a second on tabling anything right now.
I'm sorry, say that again, you've lost me.
Okay.
We're tabling the fact that we're not going to reappoint Chuck Easley.
No, nobody
no.
seconded it yet.
I took my second.
No, we haven't seconded it yet. I was waiting for him to tell me that he's going to second the motion that
I'm
Shaw
not.
just
he
amended.
didn't. Yeah,
And
he's
you're
not.
not. Does anybody else want to second the motion that Shaw just made? And that is to table the appointment of Chuck Easley to the Type B Board for a 2-year term ending March 2027. Who would like to table that so that we put that off until when Mr. Easley is back present?
I'll make a second.
Okay, so we have a second by Chapman. So we have a motion on the floor to table the appointment to the Keene EDC Type B Board of Chuck Easley, Charles Easley, sorry, for 2-year terms ending March 2027 by Shaw, second by Chapman. All in favor of tabling,
Wait,
raise your hand.
Can we have some discussion on that?
Go ahead.
Doesn't that seem kind of pointless?
Pointless to table?
Yeah,
The reason he was wanting to table was for the same reason that we
I
tabled
understand the
first
reason.
item,
I'm
because
just telling you that, why don't we just not do anything with him and maybe see if someone else steps up to the plate? Because if we table it, then we're gonna have to vote him up or down next time, or if there's someone else who steps up, let's leave it blank. Just not vote for the third person at all. Just approve the first two, and then just show it as a blank.
you want to leave it as a vacancy.
I just don't, I wanted Mr. Easley here to have a chance to,
Well, he'll be here,
well, yeah.
so, but if it seems kind of pointless to table him, when we could just ignore it.
Oh, I'm good with that, too.
He does have a
Okay.
good point. That's,
Yeah, I have a motion on the floor at this point to table Chuck Easley, or Charles Easley, and a second by Chapman. So I need to call for a motion on the
Right,
table
I was
at
just
this point.
discussing, that's all.
And then he can decide if we need to change it, yeah, whatever. So I have a motion on the floor to table the consideration of Charles Easley to the Type B Board for the 2-year term ending March 2027 by Shaw, second by Chapman. All in favor on tabling that, raise your hand. Those opposed to tabling that, raise your hand. Okay, I'm going to tie break that we are going to table that item. I'm sorry? I'm voting in favor of tabling, yes, sir. I'm voting in favor of tabling the appointment of Charles Easley to the Type B Board for a 2-year term until he can be present.
So then I move for council to appoint Cheryl Schramm and Ricky Stevens to the Keene Economic Development Type B Board for 2-year terms ending March 2027.
second. And thank you for your service.
Okay, now we have a motion on the floor to reappoint Ricky Stevens and Cheryl Schramm to the Keene Economic Development Type B Board for a 2-year term ending March 2027 by Foster and a second by Smith. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? All right, motion is carried. Okay, now we're moving on to agenda item number 7F. Review, discuss, and consider 3 reappointments to the Planning and Zoning Commission for 3 2-year terms ending March 2027. Okay, so the Planning and Zoning Commission has 3 appointments that are ending on March 1st, 2025. Philip Jackson, Miguel Espinoza, and Chris Rhodes. All, at this point, I need to make an adjustment to our staff report. Only 2 members are wishing to seek reappointment. The city secretary has already received an email from Miguel Espinoza that he would not like to seek reappointment at this time. So what we need tonight is a motion to approve just 2 reappointments, which would be Philip Jackson and Chris Rhodes to the P&Z Board. So it says, P&Z voted at their January 13, 2025 regular meeting to recommend the reappointment of these members. So we're just looking to reappoint 2.
I move that we make the motion to appoint Mr. Jackson and Mr. Rhodes back to the P and Z.
Okay? We have a second by Foster. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to reappoint Philip Jackson and Chris Rhodes to the Planning and Zoning Commission for 2-year terms ending March 2027 by Shaw, second by Foster. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous, motion is carried, and this will leave 1 vacancy on the board. And we did reach out to Edgardo Perez today, who's the alternate on that board, and he is not seeking to be fully appointed to that board. He wants to remain as an alternate. So we do need to advertise for a position on that board because we didn't have any applicants for that one. So we need to go ahead and try to fill that spot
May I make a comment at this point?
on the
On
P and Z.
And-
Yeah, so,
Well, actually, just kind of with all the boards in general, I do want to say I appreciate you guys taking a harder look at this, because I think when I first got here, there was just this immense pressure to get people on the board, because I saw potential where things could shut down, and I am an advocate of having more community involved, not less. So I applaud you guys for having a potential uncomfortable conversation, so thank you.
well, I am actually excited too that we have gotten a lot of more public input and stuff, because there was some years that we served and nobody wanted to be on the boards. It was up to council to kind of fill some of those vacancies, so I'm glad to see that more public do want to get involved in the city. That should be a positive for us, that we're not so terrible after all up here, and that we're doing an okay job, and they want to be a part of the progress that we're making in our town, so that's good. Okay, moving on to this next agenda item, number 7G. Review, discuss, and consider approval of a revised plat for Phase 1 of the Canyons residential development. All right, Mr. Martin, are you going to speak to this?
Yes.
Okay, I actually don't know anything about this, so I'd like you to kind of give us some good detail on this, because this was added after I saw the draft agenda, so I did not know this was going to be placed on here, so. So I
It was
saw the pictures in
originally-
here, but I don't know what it means, yeah.
It was originally scheduled to be on the 20th agenda.
Okay,
But what the recommendation of our new attorney is because with a plat, you have a certain deadline, dates, timelines, things like that. They recommended that we get it on this agenda.
I understand.
So if you read through the staff report there, it says, City Council previously approved plats involving this property in 2023 when J&L Holdings, they recommended approval of Phase 1, Phase 2, and Phase 3 when J&L Holdings owned it. And then when D.R. Horton came along and bought it, they wanted to make some minor changes to Phase 1, which they did, and that was approved by council. But at the time, some of that land that J&L Holdings had and was part of that second plat that was approved has now been sold to the school district where they're going to plan to build a sports complex. So that's one of the reasons why this plat needs to be redone again. And those first two had never gotten filed at the county.
So why didn't it get recorded? Did we just not do it?
Well, when J&L Holdings did it, D.R. Horton was in the process of purchasing the property. They bought the property, and that's when they came and said, hey, we want to make some changes. So that's why
Okay.
they never brought the Mylars to actually be signed and turned in at the county.
Okay,
And then when they got into the development and the civil side of it, they found out that part of that land was sold to the school.
all right. So what exactly are the changes? What is it we're looking
Okay,
at
they
here? I saw
should
something
be,
highlighted in yellow, but I didn't totally understand what it was.
Yeah, and it says in there that, let me see, get back here. Two of the lots in the front of the property and the front, I guess that would be the southeast corner that are highlighted in yellow. Those were all one big lot at one time. Now, since then, they want to put a fence up and they want to put their monument sign there as well. So they made that lot just meeting the standards that were in the PD, the planned development, and made those two into HOA lots. That way the HOA would take care of those and not the homeowners of that land. You see that? Bottom right-hand corner?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was one of the changes. The other change was the one I discussed, which is on the far left in yellow, that's highlighted in yellow. That land has been sold to the school, so that needs to come off the plat as saying Lot X, I believe it says. And then the other two squares or two blocks, the block on the right, I believe, was like 120-something feet, and the other lots were just a little over 100. They just kind of realigned that street and made those lots a little more even. Did I get all that right? Okay. He's from the design firm. If you have any questions for him.
All right, any questions for Mr. Martin?
I have one question. Sorry, I'm trying to look at this thing, and here, maybe I'll scoot it over. On Lot 1R4 and then Lot 1R1, is there an easement there to continue? There is a street that's unimproved up above by First Street. Is that correct, or is that nothing? You know what I'm talking about? Where it says unimproved?
Yeah, this is phase one, so phase two and phase three will be above that.
Right. But is there any connection to the city in phase 2 or 3 to a previous city street?
I don't believe there is. Was it? No.
Not yet?
Originally, we thought about going up to Fur Street, which would be like part of phase three. But that section of Fur Street, the first 500 feet, is still in the county, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So you just have the two main entrances, one on Eastern and one on Highway 67.
Okay.
So, Don, pardon my ignorance, but why does that matter that First Street, 500 feet, is part of the county?
It's just the size of it, we don't really want, it would take a lot of improvements on that county portion of the road. It would actually have to be annexed in order for the city to take it over, the road of it, if that makes sense. And the county didn't want to, and those landowners on either side of that area don't want to annex in as well. I mean, if that kind of makes sense. You can. You can annex just the street, but then you kind of lose that tax revenue from those homeowners that are touching that street to help maintain that street. We have that issue with County Road 317. County Road 317 from Business 67 all the way past Eastern Street is in the city limits, but half of that is not. So we have all that road that the city owns and has to take care of, but really doesn't get any tax revenue for.
You have all the expense and none of the revenue.
It's just 500 feet is what I was thinking, right?
Roughly, yes.
And it's $20,000 to fix about 40 feet. So it's still an expense. I'm not saying, don't. I'm just saying, without revenue, we're already struggling,
That's fine.
Yeah.
I was just curious.
And when all these rooftops come in, then we can take it over and.
So a follow-up question, does the fire marshal approve of these plans with the two exits that are there?
Yes, it was all been approved, civil-wise, fire-wise, everything. And when phase one, phase two, and phase three were originally approved.
Okay.
So there were just some minor changes. Answer everybody's questions, hopefully.
Council, do you have any other questions?
I move to approve the revised plat for Phase 1 of the Canyons residential development.
I second.
All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve the revised plat for Phase 1 of the Canyons residential development by Foster and a second by Shaw. Any further discussion on this motion? All in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous, motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Okay, our next item was Agenda 8, Executive Session, and I would like to actually move this to another meeting because we have 2 members of council absent, and I think it'd be appropriate to make sure that we're all present when we discuss our roles and the agenda-setting policies that we already have in place. So if nobody has any objection, I'd like to do that.
Just real quick, do we want to, well, I guess I don't know if we vote first or do we want to, yeah, I guess you have to vote first. Never mind. I wanted to figure out if we want to do a special executive session on another day or just move it.
I'm thinking that it should be like a workshop or something that we've done in the past. I know Mr. Heinrich did one when he was mayor, a workshop where we talked about the roles. We did it in open session so that we could have like a well-rounded discussion if people wanted to participate, but that's how I would recommend it, is it should be done in open and some kind of a workshop, or it could be an agenda item.
Both of the councilmen that are not present have been on council for at least 2 years, so would it be okay to go into executive and with the 3 newbies here and
I wouldn't recommend it. Again, you're talking about the discussion on the roles of council, city manager, and the city attorney. We need to make sure that we're all present if we can be possibly present.
I'm actually very much for this, and talking with Andy and stuff, partly this is his opportunity to get to know us. And secondly, just because someone's been doing something for a long time, just in the little time I've dealt with Andy, he's actually pointed out quite a few things that we aren't doing that our rules and bylaws say we should be doing. And so this is kind of a fresh set of eyes from our new attorney on, kind of what we should actually be doing. And so I would actually prefer everybody in there, if you all would oblige me.
That's fine. I wasn't trying to be combative. I just thought, I thought it was maybe for new,
Yes, you were.
new people,
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And that's,
So-
and
But
that's
the
what
mayor
I'm
pro
saying.
tem
It's,
isn't even here, so yeah, we need to make sure that we're all as present,
It's-
unless something happens and one of us just can't be, but
And don't say, yes, I was, okay?
Yes, you
I
were.
was not. I was trying to,
it's a get-to-know-each-other session.
yeah. All right,
That's
so
fine.
we're going to move these forward to another meeting and skip item number agenda 8 and go to agenda item number 10, request for future agenda items. Council, do you have anything that you would like to request on a future agenda?
did I just hear somebody mention that we might do a special executive session just for this?
We were just discussing moving it forward to another meeting, either as an agenda item or a workshop or something.
Okay,
So,
okay. So no on having a special meeting?
we haven't made that decision yet, so.
Oh, that's
I mean,
what I was asking. I'm asking if that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, we can make it in a special meeting if that we want to, but we can just put it on a regular council meeting, don't you? I think we can just have like a section in the council meeting where it just says workshop, and then you discuss those 2 items, and we have other agenda business items that we can take care of at the same time.
Oh, okay. I thought it
Unless
had to be
Mr.
an
Messer
executive.
thinks this is gonna be a 2-hour debate here that we're gonna have on these items, and we need a whole evening for it. How long? Not by you? Okay, well, then I think we can work it out where we don't need to call a special meeting for it.
Okay, I didn't, just clarifying.
I agree.
All right, anything else that council would like to ask for a future agenda item?
Mayor, I have a question.
Okay.
What does our next meeting look like? Do we know we can spare the time?
Ms. Russell, do we have a lot on the next meeting?
That's why I asked.
Okay, well, I haven't seen it
might
yet, so.
behoove us to do a special executive. Andy did share with me some other times that he's available. And obviously, we have 2 members missing, so, you know, again, we have to, and that's something that Holly and I can work on to make sure they can, you know, but it might help the next council meeting be a little bit shorter, because we can kind of combine the executive sessions and knock it out. And so
All right.
we do
Mr.
2
Sides and
2-hour
I
meetings
can-
instead of 1 5-hour.
Yeah, Mr. Sides and I can look at the next agenda and see, and make a decision, and if we think it's too long, we can schedule a special
Let's
session.
just go ahead and say we'll do a special meeting now. Let's just make it happen.
Because we don't know when the other 2 members are going to be here, so we're going to need Ms. Russell to send out an email if we set a special meeting date to say, can they be available? What if
And
you
we
choose a
have-
date they're not going to be available on?
And we have to post 72 hours. So
I know, so let's, I'm just saying, we empower you to make it happen. City Secretary.
There you go, no pressure, no pressure.
But I do want to follow up on the dog shelter discussion
Okay? What would you want to?
at the next council meeting.
Oh, okay.
I would like to know what improvements were made. Is it up to code? Is it worth
On the
keeping
animal
it-
shelter, okay.
keeping it going? How far away is this community dog shelter?
And I'm still waiting on my stop sign ordinance that's supposed to be coming for council to discuss, a stop sign at the corner of Eastern Street and Pecan Street. That was still in the works, so it wasn't able to make it on this agenda. All right, anything else, council?
I had something, but I can't think of what it is. I'll have to let,
You can email it in.
Yeah, I'll let
It's fine.
Jonathan
Just
know
email it
later,
in to
'cause
the
I
city
just went
secretary, it'll be
blank.
fine. If you think of anything after the meeting.
My fault. I'm sorry, Johnny.
All right, you ready to adjourn? Gentlemen, it's 7:31 PM, meeting is adjourned.